Welcome to Werewolf Radar, your premier source for paranormal preparedness. My name is Roger Norquist.
I am Nate Balding.
And Jordan is gone for this episode. He was bathing and he went right down the drain. So he's dealing with the it creature. He's finding out who the real turtle is, if you know what I'm talking about, the one that created all of existence. But we're going to continue on in his absence. And this episode is brought to you once again by our fine sponsor, Monstroko. What is the item for this week, Nate?
This week they're pushing Monstroko brand Chrome extension. Get Monstroko brand algorithm. See the parts of the internet that you didn't even know were there.
I like that. Seeing, the real deals on eBay. The deals they don't want you to get. The crafts that are made by the true witches out there.
Yeah. The Etsy that takes place in the abyss.
And just a bunch of green glowing rocks. Some of them have weird carvings. Some of them are a carving.
Some of them carve you.
Well, Nate, let me go first. Let me open up the Speaking Skull box, take it out of its wrapping, and put it right here on my knee like a little child. Because I am going to speak at it some more Atlantis. I'm going to wrap up my Atlantis talk, and we're going to get into what the story really was at the end of this segment. But first, I've talked a lot about Atlantis, the various myths and whatnot, but what about some truths? Some truths from one Edgar Cayce.
Capital T.
If you've been listening on most of December, I went over pyramids and the Atlantean theory of ancient advanced civilizations. And we went over some basic facts, but now we're getting to facts with a capital F for some truth with a capital T.
That's right.
From the
FT
one
13 times.
From the one man who went there, albeit while being in a hypnotic state. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. We all know who he is. He would literally, stop me if I'm wrong, Nate, but he would literally fall asleep.
Yeah, he would take a nap and then he would wake up and answer questions. And I guess in that like liminal state between waking and sleeping, he gave a bunch of he could prognosticate with, I'm gonna say 100% accuracy.
Didn't he go to Venus? I believe
he's got some stuff under his belt.
He went to Russia and spied on them. I want to say he went to Mars as well, but I might be getting that confused with the CIA experiment that did a similar thing, telling a psychic to travel to Mars and go way back in time. I believe 1 billion years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that happened for a few different people.
And let me read a little bit from the Edgar Cayce reading. This is from page 364-3. Paragraph 3, I'm going to say is what that is, but there are 2 paragraphs here, so I'm not sure what that's really referencing. Yes, we have the subject in brackets, the lost continent of Atlantis, and those conditions. As has been said, much data has been received from time to time through psychic forces as respecting conditions in or through the period or ages of this continent's existence. That the continent existed is being proven as a fact. The position of the continent Atlantis occupied is that as between the Gulf of Mexico on the one hand and the Mediterranean on the other.
Okay,
so mid-Atlantic.
Somewhere in the Pacific, yeah, somewhere in the Atlantic.
Evidences of this lost civilization are to be found in the Pyrenees and Morocco on one hand, British Honduras, Yucatan, and America on the other.
Wait, so it spanned the entirety of the ocean?
They hit both sides. Like this, let me go to the share on this. You use our YouTube if you'd like to see these images.
Right. So yeah, that is a massive
Landmass.
massive landmass. Yeah.
It's hard to make out here, but where my cursor is circling, you have Spain, you have top
right.
of Africa, Strait of Gibraltar. Over here, you have a poorly drawn America. And in between, you do have what seems to be a very large landmass of sorts, or at least a region. You know, it could be a region, but this looks like landmass that Atlantis would be.
Right. Yeah, that's I feel like if that sank, there would be enough displacement to change the borders.
The face, yeah. There would not be a Holland. Let me close that now. Zoom out. 100%, please. There are some protruding portions within this that must have at one time or another been a portion of this great continent. The British West Indies or the Bahamas, and a portion of same that may be seen in the present if the geological survey would be made in some of these, especially or notably in Bimini or in the Gulf Stream through this vicinity. These may yet be determined. He's talking about your Bimini Road off of the Bahamas, right?
Yeah.
And that is what looks like a road. I'm not going to lie. It looks like they are massive blocks laid right next to each other going in one direction.
Yeah, it does appear to be like delicately laid stepping stones.
But as we went through talking about Garong Padong, shellstone and shit just breaks off like that. Just in huge chunks. That's why a lot of ancient people use such stone to make their massive monuments, because it already broke off in huge square-like parts. So now let's read. I'm at Edgar Cayce nyc.org. I'm at the official Edgar Cayce community page, and they say one of the most fascinating sets of readings Edgar Cayce ever did was about Atlantis, its discovery, history, and destruction. He prophesied that a new land would appear in 1968 or 9. Off of the coast of North America, the so-called Rising of Atlantis. It was in fact during that time that the Bimini Road was discovered. Naysayers, what do you think about that?
I think that's a nice little loophole.
I'm for sure the original reading definitely more than likely was hinting at it rising from the ocean, like new land would appear, not we would find some stuff underwater. After all these years, the issue is still being debated by archaeologists and scientists, but the verdict is not out yet, so it may very well be. Edgar Cayce maintained that Atlantis was the first civilization, which was technologically superior to even our own, and that its last surviving islands disappeared somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean some 10,000 years ago.
Well, I feel like there would be a lot more archaeological record if it's only 10,000 years old.
Yes.
Or I guess
in theory, I mean, your Karana Tempe is 12,000 years old. We just found that. However, we saw the rocks that were the top of it the entire time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess you're right. There should be some evidence of this clearly just sticking out of the dirt still. But we're still finding, a lot of, let's say Atlantis did sink and it would have displaced all those waters. It could be the story of the deluge and multiple things, but we'll go into that a little bit. And then we still find tons of cities and towns that are, used to be on the shoreline and are now buried under like 400 feet of water.
True enough.
Where was I? Cayce revealed that the size of Atlantis was equal to that of Europe, including Asia and Europe. Huge!
Well, yeah, it had to span the entire ocean.
He saw visions of this continent of the past, which had gone through 3 major periods of division. The first 2 occurred around
Look, English is a malleable language.
15,600 BC. What would that be for us? That would be 17,000 years ago, when the mainland was divided into islands. The 3 main islands of Atlantis were named Poseida, Og, and Arion.
I'm glad that they had the foreknowledge to call one of the islands almost Poseidon.
He claimed that the Atlanteans were well versed in technology that harnessed the power of the quantum world. This included the use of crystals and sound waves for healing. Elevators, that is its own unique item. Just elevators. Connecting tunnels that operated by compressed air and steam. When was Cayce? 1930 and shit?
Yeah, it had to be.
So, more advanced than even our civilization then. They had compressed air and steam. Now, to be fair, quartz crystal science is very advanced. We're just now learning the data properties of quartz crystal and what we can do with it in computing.
Yeah, I mean that it's possible that that might have been part of the whole quantum thing.
That was used to mine gold, copper, silver from the earth. They used crystals to mine. Atlanteans were adept at the use of silicon chips at levels unrivaled in our modern world. Don't know why I had problems saying those 2 words. The crystal skull, for example. That's right, we're getting Indiana Jones on the case. The crystal skull, for example, was cut with such infinite precision that no known modern tool could have replicated the job. We've talked about this and precision items and about how, even in our time now, you have good craftsmen and bad craftsmen. Both made crystal skulls.
Yeah. It would be really funny, though, to find the bad crystal skull.
The one that I made?
Yeah, it's just like super half-assed, all misshapen. The eyes are like off-kilter.
One's 1,000 times larger than the other.
Yeah.
They were familiar with the amplification power of crystals and laser technology and memory chips. They made extensive use of mass mental telepathy, psychokinesis, and astral projection into the 4th dimensional consciousness. It seems that they won civilization.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the end game.
This is what civilization should let you build to, not the space race. Get mythical with it to where you can become Atlantis and dominate the world with laser and crystal technology. Edgar Cayce said that the people of Atlantis had constructed giant laser-like crystals for power plants, and that they were responsible for the second destruction of the land. So some scientific explanation. They had crystal technology so powerful that I think it misfired and destroyed the island. Cayce blamed the final destruction of Atlantis and the disintegration of their culture on greed and lust. The old moral panic. According to Cayce, 2 rival parties fought for control of the Atlanteans in its final days. The Children of the Law of One, we've heard about them in my alien UFO, what's that book called? The Category of Aliens, and that's where we found the Bisonites. You have the book.
Yeah, it's the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac.
Yes, a lot of species, specifically the white ones, follow the law of one, essentially, where there's just one creator of everything, and they follow it. The angel aliens, your Palladians, I even think your Bisonites, your Lionites follow this as well. And of course, your reptilians and your mantis beings are typically followers of the devil, who's the serpent. You know, there's a lot of Christian mysticism in that book, if we're being honest.
There is way too much, really.
So you have one party, the Children of the Law of One, wanted to return to a spiritual stewardship of the land based on natural laws, you know, like only a man, a woman, a man, and then the Bezonites are a marriage. It was a little bit looser back then. The other group, the Sons of Belial, wanted to exploit natural resources for material gain. The chief focus of their conflict was a third class of dull, half-awake subhumans. That's right. Let me read that again. The chief focus, their main focus, the point of the conflict was a third class of dull, half-awake subhumans used by the Sons of Belial for slave labor. The Children of the Law of One wanted to enlighten these sub-beings by raising their consciousness, while the Sons of Belial wanted to keep them ignorant to exploit them for their own gain. Literally, and this I'm not trying to be offensive, but you see the parallels to American Civil War, right?
I wasn't gonna bring it up.
Like in the same way that like both sides of the Civil War at the time did not have the highest opinion of black people, and some definitely thought of them as a lesser being, even if they deserved to be free.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was no good northerner either. Come at me, historians. Before the legendary land disappeared under the waves, Cayce revealed that there was an exodus of many Atlanteans to ancient Egypt. He attributed the biblical Great Flood of Noah to be a result of the sinking of the last huge remnants of Atlantis. He also revealed that many Atlanteans that managed to escape in hope to preserve a record of their civilization created two separate archives with all their history and accomplishments so that it could be preserved for posterity. One of these archives was revealed to be buried under one of the Sphinx's paws. We know about that. We've talked a little bit about it. What is it? My theory? Probably a dead dude.
Yeah,
I'm throwing it out there. What's in that weird geological formation under the Sphinx's paw? Probably just a dead guy.
Or maybe it's a crystal scarecrow that's been all of the events of the last 20,000 years, whatever.
So recent geological research has been done in the area. They were talking about the Sphinx's paw. There's a lot of shadiness. It has been confirmed, I do believe, that there is something there, but the Egyptian Directorate of Antiquities, your Ministry of Antiquities, does not allow for this excavation for any reason, because it would, I think in their words, ruin the stability of the Sphinx in general, and they don't want to destroy this monument just because you think there's an Akashic record underneath the Sphinx. Come at us with some science, please. So that is Edgar Cayce's reading on Atlantis, a lot of the facts with the capital F that he told when he woke up in his fugue state. That really led to what I talked about in December. Listen to those episodes. That really cemented Atlantis, or an ancient culture, ancient advanced society that really plays into your, your ancient apocalypses, your ancient astronaut theory. But where did Atlantis really come from? Nate, you know about it, but Atlantis, the very first record of Atlantis was from Plato's dialogues featuring Socrates. He wrote about it in the Timaeus and the Critias, both written around 300 BC. I'm getting this from Thought Company, but we read some earlier stuff in December from Wikipedia and whatnot, kind of hinting at what I'm going to be going over now. And together, the dialogues are a festival speech prepared by Plato to be told on the day of the Panthania. Panthania?
Anthony.
Thank you. In honor of the god Athena. They described a meeting of men who met the previous day to hear Socrates describe the ideal state. There's some things that I want to focus on here. These dialogues were written specifically as a festival piece in Athens for the god Athena. So we're a big festival here, you know? And dialogues at the time were, what am I trying to say? A literary form of writing. Like, this is a form of entertainment, and specifically this is kind of a fiction, non-fiction. This is some Norman Mailer type shit.
Yeah, a lot of it's gonna be metaphor, which, believe it or not, people had.
people had fiction back then, by the way, everyone. The setup for Atlantis is straight up a in the story, it is said that Socrates is looking for his ideal state. And in one of the books, I do believe Timaeus, they talk about Atlantean being the ideal state. However, once again, moral panic, they become less than what they should be, and Athens is able to destroy them in war. You know, the army with laser weapons. And then in Critias, Socrates looks for a more flamboyant, more embellished, literally says that almost, tale of Atlantis. So in my opinion, these are far from fact. This is all made up for an Atlantean festival, or for an Athenian festival, to celebrate the goodness, the greatness of Athens. And I don't believe any of this is true. If we had a time machine, no, I believe what I said is true. I don't believe the Atlantean story is true in any way. I think that if we went to them, as Jordan said, paraphrasing him, if we had a time machine and went to Athens and said, yo, point me to where Atlantis is, they would go, what are you talking about? That's not a real place. In the same way that, like, if aliens went from the future and went to us looking for James Bond, we would go, what the fuck are you talking about? That's a movie. Dialogues were the movies of the time. Like, they were part of that Homeric speech, to where, like, you would see an epic, you would see a dialogue. Like, this is what you did for fun, knowing that these were not real. And
No,
this is
be true.
This is now from my own research and writing, although I did use After the Ice, The Birth of Gods, and the Origin of Agriculture, along with the Oxford's 101 book on ancient Egypt. But I don't think Athens was real. Come at me, historians. I don't think Atlantis was real in any way, nor based on a Santorini or a Thera. Like, I'm gonna go that far in saying that they were so far removed from the truth on this story that even equating it to civilizations that vanished in a destruction is not the basis for Atlantis. Like, back in the day, especially this time in Greek history, civilizations disappeared all the time. Like, it was just a common occurrence, you know, like, you would go to war and massacre everyone, and now you have the tale of the Messians, you know? Like, what happened to them? We killed them. And then they would make up a reason why they were allowed to, you know, like in the story of Atlantis became corrupt, so it allowed Athens to take control of the war, and then Poseidon made them vanish. Like, it's just pure whimsy.
It's fun.
It's very fun. Despite me saying that all this is fake, I enjoy a good Atlantean story.
Yeah, without Atlantis, We got no Aquaman. We
we
got
have
no
no
Namor the Submariner.
we have no Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
We have no Little Mermaid 2, Revenge of Ursula's Cousin. Or was that the sister in The Little Mermaid 2? I don't remember, but it's one of Ursula's family members who's just a skinny Ursula.
I was unaware that there was a sequel.
It's a straight to DVD sequel, and it's the same plot, but just a different Ursula. But that's my segment and my kind of short, trunicated ending. But Atlantis wasn't even real for the Atlanteans. I don't believe it was based on a single civilization like some historians are trying to say. I really think it was just using common motifs and local histories that we know happen and going like, we're all familiar with the lost civilization. We've seen 6 this year, right? Well, check out this one that was 10,000 years ago. And on top of that, would Casey even predict, or would Casey be able to see an Atlantis if it wasn't for Plato's Atlantis? And Plato's Atlantis was as advanced as Athens was. They didn't have lasers. They're coming at them phalanx style with spears and shields.
Yeah.
Like the idea of a crazy advanced Atlantis really starts right here. Even in Ignatius Donnelly's writings, they had at most the technology of modern time, which Ignatius Donnelly, Nate, if you're not aware, was a congressman of Minnesota in the 1880s.
Well, that sounds about right.
So it really seems that whoever is dealing with this Atlantis idea puts modern technology or advanced modern technology spin to it. That's why, as you read here, Atlantis had lasers, because lasers were invented in 1930 as like a form of focused proton that you could actually play with. But in modern times, they got fucking UFOs, they got spaceships, they got fucking like holograms that are producing Atlantean ads that are all about sex still. Sex has only been the only thing that sells.
Greed and lust, baby.
But that's wrapped up my very long multi-episode arc on Atlantis, the truth on it. I don't think it was Manoa. I don't think the Minoan Santorini exploding. I think it goes beyond that. I think that's just something that they probably didn't even know happened.
It just sounds like it was a quick shorthand to talk about pretty much any disaster.
Yeah, and like I said, people using the idea of Plato's Atlantis as like, there's the facts right there. Plato's writing about it. Is like, yeah, but that was fiction. You know, there's no John Wick. As much as I want there to be in real life, there's no John Wick.
I actually don't want there to be a John Wick. That kind of hyper-violence is unnecessary, except on the screen.
I like how, where's the police reports? Is there police reports in John Wick saying like 27 people were all shot in the face earlier this morning? Police think it's the mysterious John Wick, but are afraid to approach because they don't want to be the 28th. Anyway, I'm done with mine. I'm packing the skull, putting it through the tube to send to your side of the bunker, and you should be receiving it in the mail in 1 to 3 seconds. Cash on delivery.
Oh shit! I ain't got no cash, man.
That was my favorite Top Cat joke. Was he'd be getting mail all the time, but he won't accept it if it's COD.
All right, yeah, I'm blowing into one of its eye holes and sucking my breath out from the other one, and going over to, we're actually sticking around that time and place. We're in ancient Egypt.
Ooh, should I get my book?
No, I think this will be fine.
Oh.
Unless you have the pyramid texts.
I got part of them because they're talked about, but
Uh, this is from an article called Devouring Gods. What was the ancient Egyptian cannibal hymn?
yes.
It's all, I'll just read the article. It is always difficult to know when the first of something happened in history. We still do not know exactly when and where the Egyptian religion started, and the same goes for the written texts. In the case of Egypt, there are countless treasures still covered in sand that have remained undiscovered for millennia. Probably under that fucking paw. This is why, when referring to the so-called pyramid texts, although we cannot claim that they are the first religious texts in Egyptian history, it can be said with certainty that they are the earliest known Egyptian religious texts.
Yeah, that would have placed it then, and you might have already said it, but I got distracted by a text from my lady. Probably around like 25,000 BC, because prior to that, Egyptians could not write. Come at me, historians.
I don't think it's that old, because they're
that would have been just the start of it, where they went beyond like names and titles, and there was actually like Jim the fisherman had a sad day today.
Well, they were recorded on because they didn't write them on papyrus. They were just carved into the inner walls of, I believe it's five or six. No, it's 6 pharaohs and 5 of their wives' pyramids. They were.
That's late Old Kingdom.
Yeah, they were at the end of the 5th kingdom.
Yeah, that's old late kingdom. I know so much about this particular time of history and before it, and the advent and the creation of writing right now. I've read 6 books on this topic. Not the pyramid text, but just how writing has evolved and why it was needed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad we have it around.
It won't leave me. I dream about it. Am I cursed?
I think so. Traditionally, Egyptologists have divided the pyramid texts into several utterances because it's believed that they had been made to be read by the priests who conducted the burial ceremonies. The texts themselves deal with several religious motifs regarding the afterlife of the pharaohs or queens. It is believed that only through a specific set of actions they would be transformed into an Ak, which we've talked about this multiple times, but that's one of the parts of the soul that allows you to fly safely into an eternal life of joy and gratitude. One of these utterances, the ones commonly named the Cannibal hymn, remain the most puzzling. That's partially because these are only found in 2 pyramids, the ones belonging to Eunice and the ones belonging to Teti. The Eunice Cannibal hymn, however, is the longest and most complete, and the coolest, I must say.
Also, can I say that I did not know Egypt had a cannibalistic side?
Well,
like I've studied a lot about this as we were discussing, and this is neat. This is very neat.
We will get to that.
Okay. There's a reason why I haven't.
It is too one of the most widely misinterpreted pieces of Egyptian writing. So we're gonna get some biographical stuff first. Get that out of the way. Eunice, the last ruler of the 5th dynasty of Egypt, in the midst of a time known to historians as the Golden Age of Pyramids, and I recommend Googling the Pyramid of Eunice, because now it is a giant pile of dirt.
That's the one that collapsed, right?
It must have.
Because pyramids building structure has gone through some processes of how do we make this stand up, and this is one of the biggest failures. Like, this crashed hard.
Yeah,
I'll bring up a picture. Like, the picture's been up in the edit. Yeah.
Most of the Egyptian pyramids we know well today were built during this particular Old Kingdom dynasty. Eunice's pyramid was built around 2300 BCE in Saqqara near modern-day Cairo. and now lies in ruin, although it was once one of the more perfect, smooth-sided limestone pyramids of the time. It's a real shame, because I bet it looked fucking cool. The early kings of Egypt were expected to govern the country according to what French mythographer Georges Dumézil called the tripartite ideology. In his so-called trifunctional hypothesis, primitive Indo-European kings had to embody the whole of society, which was composed of three kings of men: priests, warriors, and farmers. This meant that the king was supposed to successfully wage war against the enemies of the country, feed the people, and exert sovereignty over both the worldly and supernatural realms. Sort of a single tribunal.
Might as well have that. It seems no sense not to bring the two sides of life together.
Yeah. Accordingly, accounts from the time of Yunus mention his military exploits in southern Canaan, how he maintained trade relations with Nubia and the Levant, and of course, they portray him as a son of Ra and an equal to Osiris. This last aspect of Yunus's reign, the religious aspect, is exceptionally told in his pyramid texts, which we will get to. The pyramid texts in general deal with the death and resurrection of the king and his ascent to the sky with the help of Atum-Ra, where he will become Osiris, which is interesting.
Yeah, I do like that idea of reincarnation, even for the gods, who were like, no, they just become him, and then the old Ra dies, and then new Ra does the same thing.
Yeah. This process has a series of stages which are told in a very interesting narrative style. The first stage deals with the claiming of the, quote, place of the four pillars, that is, the earth and its four cardinal points. The texts describe how a number of gods who bear witness to this claim go and fetch the local gods in every corner of Egypt to follow suit. Seth and Nephthys appeal to the upper Egypt's gods, Osiris and Isis to the lower Egypt's gods, Thoth to the west, Horus to the east. Everybody has a party.
Party, 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 party time. That's the song that they sang.
So everywhere in the country, it's known that Yunus is the almighty king of Egypt. This is from Utterance 217. Quote, this Yunus comes, a spirit indestructible. If he wishes you to die, you will die. If he wishes you to live, you will live. So, that whole kind of God King thing.
I would die right away. I just saw something that blows my mind and changes reality. I think my heart popped.
After asserting his kingship, Yunus starts to ascend to the sky where his father, Atum-Ra, dwells. Re Atum, your son comes to you. This is from a later utterance. Yunus comes to you, raise him with you, hold him in your arms. He is your son of your body forever. He is then lifted by Shu, the god of air, and then the sky goddess Nut takes his hand to welcome him into the sky. She invites Yunus to join her in prayer, and then the king needs to go through a cleansing ritual. The mythical place where the cleansing takes place is known as the Field of Rushes, and is supposedly located in the eastern sky. The sky, of course, in Egyptian mythology, is the counterpart to the Nile. So, of course, the safest way to traverse is on top of a reed float conducted by a ferryman. So this is a sort of apparently vague and supposedly metaphorical part about how Yunus gets to the sky.
Through boat.
Quote, he subjects to himself those who have gone there to the sky. They bring him those four elder spirits, the chiefs of the sidelock wearers, who stand on the eastern side of the sky, leaning on their staffs, that they may tell this Yunus's good name to Ra, announce this Yunus to Nehebaku, and greet the entry of this Yunus. Apparently, sidelock wearers refers to the fact that children in Egypt had their heads shaved except for a lock of hair to one side, which sounds pretty dope, actually.
Pretty dope. Pretty cyberpunk.
Yeah. Nehebka was an early snake deity, but little is known about him for some reason. Anyway, thanks to those deities who grant him access to the sky, He finally takes his seat in the afterlife, and then all hell breaks loose.
Wow, wow. That's the hell breaking loose guitar riff.
From Utterance 273, sky rains, stars darken, the vaults quiver, earth's bones tremble, the planets stand still, at seeing Eunice rise his power, a god who lives on his fathers, who feeds on his mothers.
Oh, it's too much.
This fragment, of course, implies that Eunice is stronger than the gods and goddesses that came before him. But Eunice is not alone. He has many helpers. However, they are, quote, under his feet. That is, their power is not nearly as great as Eunice's. The texts in Eunice's funerary chamber continue to mention that he can command other gods to do his will, and that at one point he grows soul-seeking, flame-spewing serpents on his forehead.
Nice. That's what I'm talking about.
Pretty rad. In fact, there are a number of animal powers he masters.
That's an animal power. I like how an animal power is just erupting said animal.
Yeah. A soul-seeking, flame-spewing serpent.
Awesome Dark Souls boss, though.
Oh, definitely. Eunice is the bowl of heaven who rages in his heart, who lives on the being of every god, who eats their entrails.
No.
Contrary to the rest of Egyptian literature, where the topic of the king's or the god's death is avoided, utterances 273 and 274 of the pyramid texts, aptly called the Cannibal hymn, are quite explicit. He feeds on everything the gods have to offer. He, quote, eats their magic, swallows their spirits, end quote. The god Cones, upon Eunice's orders, slits the throats of several gods and serves their entrails to the king in a dinner pot. Mention of severed body parts and eating of organs are aplenty in the Cannibal hymn, but without a doubt the most debated and mysterious verses of this hymn are found at the end of Utterance 274. He has smashed bones and marrow. He has seized the hearts of gods. He has eaten the red, swallowed the green. Eunice feeds on the lungs of the wiser. Likes to live on the hearts and their magic. Yeah, he's killing everybody up there.
Someone's got to. There would be too many people.
Yeah. The meaning behind this is, even today, not clear, but it may be helpful to discuss some of the available interpretations. But first, we have to ask, was there cannibalism in Egypt? So we are getting around to it.
I'm still saying sometimes.
Although he has gained ill fame in recent years due to his involvement in the smuggling of Egyptian antiquities to the British Museum, Egyptologist Ernest Alfred Wallace Budge was, at the beginning of the 20th century, one of the most renowned experts on ancient Egyptian texts. His most famous finding was the so-called Papyrus of Ani, containing one of the most beautiful versions of the Book of the Dead. His 1911 work, Osiris and Resurrection in Egypt, contains a bold claim. Egyptians invented the Osiris myth in order to force the population to abandon their old habit of cannibalism. The main source for this theory? The Cannibal hymn, where cannibalism certainly seems to be described in detail. According to him, then, the state priests of the Old Kingdom started telling the tale of the death and dismemberment of Osiris as a means of making such practices taboo. No longer were dead bodies allowed to be eaten. Instead, they had to be mummified as a whole and protected for their afterlife. Now, this next section is called Other, Better Interpretations of the Ancient Egyptian Canon. At first, scholars seemed to get behind Budge's ideas, but soon enough it became apparent that the evidence presented by him was insufficient to claim with certainty that Egyptians practiced cannibalism at an early stage of their history, or at any stage for that matter. More modern studies and interpretations of the pyramid texts agree that their contents are not linked to reality, but are highly metaphorical. Atlantean, even some might say.
I would.
In this sense, it is seen as an assertion of power of Unis as a ruler in the sky and an embodiment of Osiris. His nourishment and his might come from the spirits of his fellow gods, now that he has come to live among them in the sky. Also, hilariously, on a different article I was reading about this, there was a little footnote that was, it said, there's absolutely no archaeological evidence of cannibalism ever happening in Egypt.
Not even a little bit?
Not even a little bit.
Come on. Give me a little bit of the toe. Let me try it.
I mean, maybe if you were like lost in the desert in some sort of Donner Party situation, it could have happened. But,
But already they're like, that seems awkward. I think we should not eat each other.
Yeah. Finally, as Miriam Lichtheim has proved, when it is said that Unis, quote, has eaten the red, the text refers to the red crown of Lower Egypt, whereas the green is the Wajet, the cobra goddess of Upper Egypt. Far from being proof of cannibalism in ancient Egypt, the cannibal hymn is a celebration of the unification of the two lands.
Oh.
Lower Egypt and Upper Egypt under an almighty God who is able to rule even from his throne in the sky. He brought the Upper and Lower Egyptian lands together under one king.
I always forget that ancient Egypt also wasn't one country or people. Like, it was divided. Your northern and southern Egypt, like you just described.
And it was still pretty huge.
Oh yeah, fucking huge, especially for the time. Like, that much room for one civilization to properly control was a lot.
But yeah, that's the cannibal hymn. Maybe the most fun part of the pyramid texts, but apparently largely metaphorical. Still, it's fun to think about the story where Unis is flown to the sky and then just starts wreaking havoc.
I think that's the main concept of this episode is like, ancient people had metaphor and fiction, and they also had some fun stories.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's that segment. I will rewrap the skull here.
Excellent.
Slide it into its box. Put that under the bed where it belongs.
Perfect. And I will walk us out of here. Folks, thank you for listening to this week's episode of Werewolf Radar. We are continuing on into 2025 with more hopes than ever. I hope to travel into space this year. Not by normal means, though. Slingshot. I'm looking to put on a helmet and get slingshotted into the upper stratosphere. My body being both pressurized and burned to a crisp as I enter and then exit and then re-enter the atmosphere.
Really, make that a funerary possibility.
Giant slingshot? Yeah, where my body falls, it's their problem now.
Or just burning up in the atmosphere.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Put me
the Viking funeral is actually kind of a myth, but it'd be like that, except the earth would do it for you.
If you like what we do here and the silliness contained, check us out at our website, werewolfradar.com. And most importantly, make sure you subscribe and follow to our YouTube page. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. And when that happens, when we get 1,000, we get to apply for YouTube citizenship. We'll be a small second-class citizen, but we'll be citizens finally.
We're trying to get that. We're trying to get that before the 20th.
Before the 20th of this year? This month? Let's do that. This will be released on the 19th, so I think we got it.
Okay, as long as we can get that new citizenship before the inauguration,
Yes.
that'd be great.
That would be great. If you really like what we do here and want to support us financially, give us a small financial donation at patreon.com/werewolf radar. And you can get extra episodes. You can get merch depending on your tier. I think most tiers have a merch option, such as an art poster, a small little art, I don't know, an 8x10 from Jordan, a t-shirt, a mug, all sorts of fun stuff. Check that out. That is, once again, patreon.com/werewolf radar. And we're going to start streaming some games Mondays on YouTube instead of Twitch. So check us out there. And I think that's it for the promos. You know, follow us wherever you can. We're still on social a little bit, but not really. Just go to our website, contact us, our Discord. That's the best place to hang out with us and talk to us. You can find that in the description of all YouTube pages. And I think that's it. Everyone, I hope you're having a great 2025. I know what's happening. You don't got to tell me how it's going for us all. Let's just lie. Let 2025 be the year of denial.
I thought that was...
Let's make 2025 the continuing of the river denial. And I think that's it. Let's sign off with our super duper unsecret sign off line. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Punch the sky, Spaceman Joe.